All right, fight fans joining us now. It's been a couple of weeks, but we tracked him down. It's time for Hearn to unleash Mr. Eddie Hearn.
What's
How
up,
we
Eddie?
doing, boys?
Good.
Good. Welcome to the show. So much to talk about. Look, Eddie, before we even get into the Dillian Whyte win, I want to talk about what Shelly Finkel is saying now. You know, Anthony Joshua obviously has the eliminator with Andy Ruiz, but he's saying, hey, listen, I know you guys have the Dillian Whyte fight lined up for AJ, but we want the AJ fight now. Let's make a deal. Let's make it happen now. Is that even an option? Would that be possible? Is it all based on AJ? What's your take on what Shelly's talking?
I mean, maybe they're looking to push the Ruiz fight a little bit. You know, I don't know, or maybe they want it. I'm going to reach out to Shelly today. I mean, there's a lot of options going around for Deontay Wilder. I mean, firstly, I have Anthony Joshua fight, which is a massive fight for Deontay Wilder. I also have the Dillian Whyte fight. I'd still love to make Whyte against Wilder, but happy to look at both of those fights. At the moment, in AJ's plan, he's due to fight probably late March. We're locking that in. Could that be Wilder? Possibly. Open to that conversation. In my head, because of the Andy Ruiz situation and everything, it was probably one that was one for the summer or certainly 2023, but more than willing to have that conversation. Obviously, Dillian Whyte's win at the weekend sort of opens up that situation for Whyte against AJ, but we also understand that AJ against Deontay Wilder is one of the biggest fights in boxing. So definitely be opening to make that fight next or even the one after. I'm easy.
Yeah, I think that fight between Wilder and Joshua will always be very, very big. But speaking of Dillian Whyte, you know, he had a very, very tough fight against Jermaine Franklin. Do you think, in the fans' view, he earned that shot now with Anthony Joshua, that rematch?
Yeah, I don't think he needs to really earn the shot because of the size of the fight. I mean, the first one was epic. It's 1-1. Obviously, Dillian won in the amateurs. It's two heavyweights from Britain who are in the top 5 in the world. Top, actually, really 2 from London, let alone Britain. One's from North London, one's from South London. You know, they've got great history and rivalry. It's a very, very good fight. So that fight will always remain big. I thought Jermaine Franklin boxed a great fight. It was a very close fight on Saturday night. I think he'll be back in big fights. But for Dillian Whyte, you know, he's ready. Whether it's Anthony Joshua, whether it's Deontay Wilder, whoever it is, he wants a big fight.
You think it was a clear victory for Dillian? I'm sorry. You think
definitely not. I mean, I got in the ring after the fight, and he got a bit disappointed with his performance. I said, it's close. And he went, what? I said, no, I'm being honest with you, it's really close. I felt that through 6 or 7 rounds, Franklin was in control of the fight. I had Dillian Whyte winning 10, 11, 12 just to edge it out. But, you know, when people talk about robberies and stuff like that, it's like, that's a robbery. I had it 115, 113 for Franklin. Like, that's not a robbery. Like, that's one round away from going the other way. I mean, you know, so for me, when I heard the draw for the first card, I think, you know, I can't really argue with a draw. I thought that Dillian Whyte's finish won him the fight. But I can also see a draw. Could I see Franklin by 1? Maybe. That wasn't my honest opinion, but it was a very close fight. Dillian Whyte's bodywork was excellent. You know, he was the one really, I feel, hurting Franklin more, but Franklin threw a lot of punches, was very clever. You know, Dillian did take a lot on the gloves as well. You know, he tried different things with Buddy McGuire. I think it's very dangerous to start trying new things. And actually, he had to revert to type to win the fight. Like 10, 11, 12 was the old school Dillian Whyte. Big hooks over the top, you know, just letting him go, being a roughhouse. That's what makes Dillian Whyte what he is. And I don't like necessarily this whole changing stuff at this stage in the career. You know, like AJ's similar kind of, but I think he's accepted as well. We mustn't look to change things here. We've got to use the attributes that we have. We've got to refine our skills. But really, what makes Dillian Whyte is he's a handful. You know.
Speaking of AJ, we saw he was in attendance. If you had a conversation with Anthony about the Whyte fight, what was his take on Whyte's performance?
He was like watching the fight, saying, "I said, look, what do you think about these 2 guys?" And he said, "Like, no problem." Like, and that was actually during that fight. It looked like Franklin might win the fight. He was happy to fight Jermaine Franklin. He's happy to fight Dillian Whyte. Maybe he still fights Jermaine Franklin. I mean, he's put his name out there as a top heavyweight as well. But there isn't a fight that Anthony Joshua wouldn't take, honestly. Like, he loves boxing. He loves to challenge himself. He was there to watch that fight and the other heavyweight fight with Fabio Wardley, and he enjoyed the fight, and he's ready for all comers.
That's one of the things I love and respect about AJ. He's willing to fight anybody. Like another gentleman that works with you, Mr. Canelo Alvarez. In news, you saw, I'm not sure if you saw the Twitter attack to Messi. Now, after watching the video, Eddie, you can tell that he was changing in the dressing room, and it doesn't seem like he necessarily was deliberately trying to step on the jersey, but it just so happened to be by his feet. So who's the one that went too far here? Was it Messi?
I have no idea. All I know is I woke up this morning and it was everywhere, you know, and I was like, wow, what's going on here? Right. But at the same time, like, Canelo Alvarez is extremely passionate about Mexico. And, you know, I wouldn't, if I was Lionel Messi, I wouldn't want to bump into the cell. I've seen it, I don't know really, but
what do you feel about, I mean, was that disrespectful? Like, how would you feel if, you know, if somebody had the British flag on the floor like that, on the jersey, and even though he wasn't stepping on it, it was on the floor by his feet. Was that disrespectful?
I don't know. Actually. Like, you know, it was obviously disrespectful to Sal, but like I said, he's a very passionate Mexican. Like,
yes, indeed.
You know, I mean, you never really see that. It's quite a big response from him, really, like publicly.
Right. It's
and it was obviously something that he was actually genuinely hurt by, and that's because of the passion he has for his country.
I can tell you this, Eddie. You know, in Puerto Rico, I'm Puerto Rican, and they're real passionate. I remember the last time when Bernard Hopkins was fighting Tito Trinidad, he threw the flag in Puerto Rico. They had to get him out in a helicopter and fly him out of the island immediately. That's how passionate people are about their country.
I think one thing's for sure, Lionel Messi will not be going on vacation in Mexico anytime soon.
No Cabo, no Cancun, none of that.
No. All right, well, I want to know if you definitely saw that one, because that one was pretty big. Anytime Canelo tweets is a big deal. But did you see Jamal Charlo actually step into Dimitri Bivol in a public call out and say, hey, why don't you meet me around 168 or whatever? What do you think about that fight?
Weird one, really. I mean, I don't know what Charlo's doing, really. Like, I thought he'd retired, but you know, he's sort of. I think Dimitri Bivol is becoming a real fan's favourite. I mean, people are seeing the funny side of Dimitri Bivol. He's quite cheeky. He obviously, fans love the fact that he's willing to fight anybody, you know. And I think that I don't really see the value in a Charlo fight. He doesn't have a belt at 168. He's a good fighter, and I'm not sort of saying we wouldn't be interested to look at that fight, but you know, for Dimitri Bivol, really, it's, you know, Sal Canelo Alvarez. Obviously, that looks like it could be in September. Maybe John Ryder's a fight for the UK. Before that, you know, given that he's now mandatory challenger for Canelo Alvarez. Artur Beterbiev, you know, defending his 175-pound title. So I don't see Charlo really as something that we're seriously looking at. But who knows? You know, he's a good fight. He's a good fighter. But Dimitri Bivol, honestly,
Bivol is interested in that.
Yeah, I think that the interesting thing about Dimitri Bivol is, you know, the whole Canelo Alvarez debate between 175 and 168 for that fight, because you've got to understand, like, in Canelo Alvarez's mind, I believe he thinks, I don't want to fight you at 168 because I lost you at 175. I don't want to bring you down to my weight and have people say, oh, you brought him down to 168. You know, he was weight, you know, it was a weight thing that won you the fight. And respect to Canelo Alvarez, because he's saying, no, I want the same conditions, right? I need to beat you how it was last time. But yet Dimitri Bivol's saying, I want to fight you at 168 because I want to actually try and become undisputed at 168 and then fight Beterbiev at 175. So it's actually quite fascinating how that fight's going to play out in the negotiations, because like I said, Canelo won't want to feel like people will criticise him, say, oh, well, you lost at 75, now you're trying to bring him to 68. He wants to say, I lost before, I want to beat him in the same conditions. And it's going to be interesting to see how those talks evolve.
Yeah, I mean, I can't wait to figure out what weight that fight is going to be in. Is it safe to say that Canelo will be out in May? I mean, he's recovering from surgery. When's the last time you had a conversation with him about a date?
I spoke to Eddie Reynoso after the John Ryder fight on Saturday, just to say, look, you know, good win from John Ryder, and he could be an option for us as well. I'm seeing Eddie Reynoso, obviously Julio Cesar Martinez fights on the big Estrada Chocolatito card this weekend. we'll have a chat out there. I guess, you know, the feeling is to have that fight in around May time and then move to a Dimitri Bivol rematch in September. So we'll have to see what they're thinking and who the options are for that interim fight, if you like.
Well, you see John Ryder just beat Parker, and now he's in that mix to win that lottery ticket with Canelo. Do you think that maybe Andrade is kicking himself like, you know what, I know my fight with Parker went to purse bid and somehow that didn't happen. Maybe I should have took it and sacrificed, and maybe he'd be the one fighting Canelo next, possibly.
Yeah, I mean, we don't, you know, we're not involved with Demetrius anymore, but he's a great fighter, and you know, maybe he should have taken that fight and got himself in a mandatory position for Canelo Alvarez. But you know, thankfully the opportunity arose for John Ryder. He's had a great year. You know, he beat Daniel Jacobs, he beat Zach Parker. He's mandatory for the WBO super middleweight world title. So, you know, if Canelo Alvarez is looking for that interim fight, and I'd love to bring Canelo Alvarez to the UK. It would be huge for British boxing. I think he would love it as well. And I think John Ryder's deserving of that opportunity after the year he's had and the wins that he's had. So hopefully we can make that happen.
What venue would you love to bring Canelo?
Well, John Ryder's a big Arsenal fan, so there's the Emirates here, which is a fantastic stadium. Wembley, of course, is, you know, the home of the big fight. So any big stadium, and the British fight fans would love to see Canelo Alvarez in the UK. We could do something really special.
All right, talking about big audiences and big countries. Look, it looks like the Katie Taylor Amanda Serrano talk is moving forward. I mean, talk a little bit about that. I mean, they're saying that she wants to be undisputed at 126, but then to jump up all the way back to 135, then there's that excuse factor there that she's moving up too much weight. Would you prefer to make that fight right away?
No, I think that, you know, we're talking to Nikisa and MVP about two-fight situation. You know, we obviously have Erica Cruz as well, the other champion who the fight's between for undisputed. So we are looking at making that fight the first week of February in New York, and then moving to the big Croke Park fight in front of 80,000 in May. So that would be a hell of a run for Amanda Serrano. Anything can happen in boxing. You know, Erica Cruz is a good fighter as well. It's not an easy fight for Amanda Serrano. The weight jump's fine. She boxed at 135. She's boxed at 140. She's, you know, Katie Taylor is the lightweight undisputed champion. So the talks are going well. There's still a bit of work to do, but we're hopeful that we could, I mean, that would be a hell of a run from Amanda Serrano, you know, to win the undisputed at 126 and then fight for the undisputed at lightweight against Katie Taylor a few months later. But that's the route that we're looking at, and we'll see if we can make it happen.
And will Katie just lay out for this and wait
probably,
it out?
Yeah, probably, because of the size of Croke Park, and you know, it's May, it's not too long to wait, but we'll see what happens. I think if we're going to close a deal, we'll do that over the next week.
All right.
All right, well, listen, thanks as always for giving us your time, and we'll talk soon next week. Take it easy.
Cheers, boys. Take care.
Thank you, Eddie.
Introducing the new DAZN Boxing Show podcast. No matter the time or the place, getting your boxing content has become easier than ever. Tune in as we give you exclusive insights, predictions, fight night recaps, and more alongside the biggest names in the game. All for free. Available globally every Thursday across all audio streaming platforms, and with new episodes dropping weekly to give you the latest news. Just type in the DAZN Boxing Show podcast, listen in, and enjoy.